just turned 40, successful, sharp, single by choice, or so everyone thought. She lived in a penthouse overlooking a city that never looked back. On the night of her birthday, she did something she'd never done before. She hired a stranger to sit across from her, a young black waiter, paid in cash, no questions asked. What was supposed to be the table for two, that was never meant to be. Madeline Rivers turned 40 on a Thursday. No party, no press, no curated Instagram posts with fake candles and fake friends. She'd told her assistant to cancel everything weeks ago. But that morning something shifted. She picked up her phone, called her favorite restaurant, and whispered, "I want the rooftop, 1 table, 2 chairs, but just me." By 6:45 p.m., the sky above Manhattan turned the color of lavender and ash. The rooftop of Le Vieux Clair was empty except for a table dressed in white linen crystal glasses and silence. Madeline arrived alone in a sleek black dress and a pair of heels she hadn't worn since her last date 3 years ago. The maitre d' greeted her nervously. "Would you like to be seated, Ms. Rivers?" She didn't answer. Instead, her eyes scanned the staff. And then she pointed to him. "You, the tall one with the tired eyes? What's your name?" "Jordan, ma'am." "Do you have plans tonight?" "I'm working." "Not anymore. Sit down. I'll pay." Jordan was 27. He had 2 jobs, 1 poetry journal, and exactly $48 in his checking account. He had no idea who Madeline Rivers was, but the way she looked at him, it wasn't flirtation. It was desperation wrapped in control. He sat across from her, and they said nothing. For 10 minutes, they let the clinking of cutlery and the wind between buildings fill the space between them. Then quietly she spoke. "I didn't expect to be alone tonight." Jordan nodded. He'd heard that line before from strangers, from his mother, from himself. "You're not," he said. She smiled half-hearted, almost guilty. And somewhere, something fragile began to thaw. But just as the waiter poured their wine, something unexpected happened. Madeline looked at Jordan's wrist and froze. "Where did you get that bracelet?" Jordan blinked. "It was my father's," he said slowly. "Why?" Madeline didn't answer. She just looked away, eyes glassy, breathing shallow. And in that moment, Jordan had no idea that this dinner wasn't random. It was fate. The bracelet. The name and the man who never came back. Madeline hadn't seen that bracelet in 22 years. It was made of worn leather and a small brass plate, engraved with 3 letters, RDJ. At 18, she used to trace those letters with her thumb every time he held her hand in the back seat of his truck. Reggie D. Johnson, the first boy she ever loved. The only one she never stopped waiting for. And now this stranger across the table was wearing it. Jordan didn't notice her change at first, but she stopped eating. Her posture stiffened. Her eyes didn't blink. "Where's your father now?" she asked. "Dead," he replied without hesitation. "Got sick when I was 13. Madeline swallowed hard. "And your mother?" "She raised me alone. Said he used to live in New York. Never told me much else." "What was his name?" Jordan shrugged, then leaned back. "Reggie. Reggie Johnson. You knew him or something." Madeline didn't answer. Not right away. Instead, she reached for her wine glass, missed, and knocked it over. The crimson liquid spread across the table like a wound opening. "Jesus, sorry," Jordan said, rushing for napkins. "It's fine," she whispered. But her voice cracked, because at that moment she realized something. The man across from her wasn't just a waiter. He was Reggie's son. And if the math was right, he was also hers. But that was impossible, wasn't it? Madeline had been pregnant at 18, yes, but the baby was gone. A closed adoption sealed by her father's lawyers. She'd been told the child went to a family in Colorado. She never met him, never saw him. She never even knew if it was a boy or a girl. Yet here he was, sitting across from her. Same eyes, same wrist, same quiet ache in his voice. She stood up suddenly. "I need some air." "Are you okay?" Jordan asked, confused. "I don't know." She turned away, walked to the edge of the rooftop, gripping the stone railing like it could hold back a lifetime of memory. Behind her, Jordan remained seated, staring at the bracelet. He didn't know who she was, but for the first time in years, he felt like someone had looked at him like they recognized him. Not as a stranger, but as someone lost, and maybe someone found. The files her father locked away. Madeline didn't sleep that night. She paced the length of her penthouse like a ghost stuck between centuries, staring at old photographs, wine glasses still stained red, and the bracelet she couldn't forget. She knew it was him. She felt it in her gut, in the trembling of her fingers when he said, "Reggie." But feelings weren't facts, and she needed facts. At 8:12 a.m., she unlocked the antique drawer in her father's study. A drawer she hadn't opened since the day he died. It was filled with dust, old land titles, and one thick folder marked in cold, mechanical handwriting. Adoption, M. Rivers, 2003. She stared at it for a long time before opening it. Inside, a birth certificate, gender male, a legal waiver signed with her name trembling, and 19. A stamped letter, adoptive family relocated to Georgia, name sealed. But one page stood out. A mistake, perhaps. It listed the biological father, Reggie D. Johnson, and under that, a scribbled address in Brooklyn. A note, unreachable, did not respond to contact attempts. Madeline's hands shook as she read the final page, child's first name, Jordan. She dropped the folder. No, 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 no. It can't be him. But it was, and it made sense now. His age, his voice, that careful distance in his eyes. He wasn't just her past. He was her consequence. Meanwhile, Jordan sat in his apartment staring at the bracelet. He hadn't worn it in years. But something about the way she looked at it made him uneasy. And then there was her reaction. That wine glass. The sudden exit. The cold smile that wasn't cold at all. He opened his notebook and began to write. He always wrote when something didn't make sense. She knew him. She knew me. She looked at me like I was more than a waiter, like I was a memory. And for the first time he wondered, had he been brought there by chance or by something greater? Back in the penthouse, Madeline dialed a number she never thought she'd use again. A lawyer, old family contact, the kind of man who didn't ask questions, just delivered answers. "I need a name," she said, "a location, anything." "What are you looking for, Ms. Rivers?" "My son," she whispered. "I think he just served me dinner." The question he never thought to ask. The next evening, Jordan returned to Le Vieux Clair. He wasn't scheduled. He didn't care. He needed to see her again. Not because she was rich, not because of the money, but because something about her felt unfinished, like a sentence without a period. But Madeline didn't show. He waited until the restaurant closed, then sat on the same rooftop chair she had chosen the night before. He stared across the table, into nothing. "She looked at me like she knew everything," he whispered, but said nothing. Meanwhile, Madeline sat in her parked car outside the restaurant engine, off hands gripping the steering wheel. She could see him through the rooftop glass, waiting, alone. But she couldn't move. She had prepared every line in her head, but none of them survived her heartbeat. "Hi, I'm Madeline. I gave you away. Hi, I'm your mother. I didn't fight hard enough. Hi, I'm too late, aren't I?" She watched him get up, pick up his bag, turn off the rooftop light, and walk out of view. That night, Jordan called his mother. The woman who raised him. Strong, resilient, silent about the past. "Ma, can I ask you something real?" "Course you can, baby." "Who was my birth mother?" Silence. Then the soft clink of dishes being set down. "Why now?" "I met someone. She looked at me like she knew me, like I reminded her of something painful." His mother sighed, and for the first time she sounded tired. "Her name was Madeline. I never met her. She was young, rich, pressured. You were born in New York. A lawyer came to Georgia, paid cash. We signed. They told us never to reach out. Said she didn't want contact. But what if she does now? Then maybe she's carrying the same question you are." Madeline didn't sleep. She sat in her living room staring at a photo she once kept hidden. A sonogram, faded edges, a note on the back, "You'll never know me, but I'll never forget you." And for the first time in 21 years, she cried for the boy she lost and the man she just met. But the next day, something changed. At exactly 3:17 p.m., Jordan walked into the restaurant, and Madeline was there, waiting at the rooftop table, 2 chairs, same sunset. She stood as he approached. "You came back," she said softly. "I had questions," he replied. "So do I." They sat. Neither one touched the wine. The truth that tasted like blood, they sat across from each other again. No menus, no staff, just the wind, a silver teapot cooling between them and 21 years of silence waiting to be broken. So Jordan said, trying to smile, "You eat here often, or just when you hire strangers for dinner?" Madeline didn't laugh. Her eyes were softer this time. No armor, no lipstick, just the truth trembling on her lips. "You're not a stranger, Jordan." He tilted his head confused, but something in her voice pulled at him like déjà vu wrapped in grief. "I knew your father," she said, "a long time ago, before you were born." His lips parted slightly. "Wait, you?" She nodded. "I was 18. He was trouble. I was worse. We didn't last. Then I found out I was pregnant. And my family, well, they weren't the kind that forgave mistakes." Jordan leaned back. The chair creaked like a scream. He blinked. Once, twice, then sat forward. "Are you saying you're—" "Yes." Silence. "Not the kind that waits. The kind that crushes." Jordan didn't move, didn't speak. His hands were flat on the table, like he needed the world to stop spinning. His breath shallow, measured. "I thought she didn't want me," he finally whispered. "They told me that for years. She gave you up, boy. Don't go dreaming." Madeline closed her eyes. "I didn't want to. I was forced. I signed the paper with a lawyer breathing down my neck. And after that, I wasn't allowed to ask. They made it go away. They thought they were protecting me. For me," he asked, voice sharp. "No, for myself." She reached into her purse, pulled out something old, and worn a folded piece of paper. He opened it. A photo. Sonogram. On the back, a handwritten line. "You'll never know me, but I'll never forget you." Jordan swallowed hard. His throat burned. "Why now?" he asked. "Why dinner? Why find me like this?" "I didn't find you. I just wanted someone to sit with me. I didn't know it would be you. Not until I saw the bracelet." "So this wasn't planned?" "No, but maybe something else planned it for us." He looked away, then at her, then at the sky. And for the first time since he was a boy, he asked something he never dared before. "What was I like?" Madeline smiled. "You were small, quiet. You kicked only when music played. You made me feel like the only thing in my life that wasn't broken." Tears slid down Jordan's face before he noticed. He wiped them quickly, like shame. "I don't know what to do with this," he admitted. "I came here just to get through the day. Now I'm sitting with a woman who gave me life and let me go." "I didn't want to let you go, but you did." "Yes," she said, "and I live with it every day." And then he did something she didn't expect. He reached across the table, took her hand, held it, not with forgiveness, not with blame, just with presence. I don't know if I can call you Mom, not yet. I'm not asking you to, but I think I want to see you again. And just like that, something shifted. The sky opened, the city softened, and two strangers sat quietly, no longer alone. A man who left a box behind. The next week they met again, not at the restaurant, but in Central Park. No tablecloths, no waiters, just a bench, two coffees, and the cautious rhythm of reconnection. Jordan brought questions. Madeline brought a photo album. They sat in the quiet shade while she pointed at people frozen in time. Reggie, her at prom, a blurry ultrasound, a letter she never mailed, a dress she never wore again. I thought I buried all of this, she said, but it turns out it buried me. Jordan listened, spoke little, but when he did, it mattered. What happened to him, he asked. To my father. Madeline's fingers tightened on the photo. He left, she whispered, after my father threatened him, paid him off, told him I would terminate if he stayed. Did you ever see him again? No. Jordan nodded slowly, but deep inside something didn't sit right. That night, he visited his mother, the one who raised him. He didn't ask for details. He asked for something else. Did he ever leave anything behind, Reggie? A box, she said. I kept it. Figured one day you'd want it. She led him to the attic. Dust, wood, forgotten memories. Inside the box, a cassette tape, a photo of Reggie holding a baby wrapped in blue, a letter addressed to my son if I'm gone before you grow. Jordan couldn't breathe for a moment. Why didn't you show me this before, he asked. Because you were angry for so long. And I wasn't sure which truth would hurt more, that he left you or that he didn't want to. He took the letter, sat on the edge of the bed, opened it with hands that shook. Son, I don't know if you'll ever read this. I wasn't strong enough to fight the people who kept me from you, but I loved you before I ever saw your face. If life's been hard, I'm sorry. If I never made it back, I promise it wasn't because I didn't want to. I hope one day you find your way back to the part of you that was always whole. With everything I couldn't give you, Dad. The next day, Jordan returned to Madeline's apartment. She opened the door, not expecting him. I found a letter, he said. He handed it to her. She read it, eyes flickering between disbelief and grief. He tried, she whispered. He did. They sat in silence, side by side, no need to fill it, because now the ghost between them had a name, and it was no longer haunting, just human. The house with the blue door. 3 days later, Jordan stood in front of a house he hadn't seen in nearly 15 years. Small, weathered. The same cracked walkway. The same blue door. This was the house where his father had lived before the sickness came, where his mother held 2 jobs and 3 worries, where he learned to read, to fight, to survive. But he hadn't been back since the funeral, until now. Inside, everything was quiet. Dust air thick with old wood and something else memory. Jordan walked slowly, his fingers grazing the edges of bookshelves, the corner where a couch used to be the wall, with faded pencil marks tracking his height. Then, in the back closet, behind boxes of clothes, he found it. A shoebox. Inside, a photo of Reggie and Madeline barely out of their teens. A folded letter never mailed. And a hospital bracelet. Jordan picked it up. His name. His birth date. The words, Baby Boy, Rivers Johnson. He sat on the floor and cried. Later that evening, he called Madeline. She picked up immediately. I found a photo, he said. Us, him. You looked free. We were, she said, her voice far away. For about 4 months. You still think he left because of your father. I know it. Then he didn't leave me, Jordan said quietly. He lost both of us. The next day, they drove together for the first time back to the house. Madeline sat in the passenger seat, hands folded in her lap like she was praying. She hadn't been to this part of the city in over 20 years. When they arrived, she didn't speak. She just walked slowly up the steps, touched the blue door, and exhaled. This is where he lived. This is where I lived, Jordan said. Where I became the man you met that night. She looked at him fully now, not as a symbol of guilt, but as something else. A miracle that hurt. They sat on the porch. For a long time, the street was quiet. A kid rode by on a scooter. A dog barked in the distance. Do you regret it? Jordan asked. Giving me up. Madeline took a long time to answer. I regret the silence, she said. Not the pain, not the consequence, just the silence. You deserve to know you were wanted, even if I didn't have the courage to raise you. And then softly, Can I ask something selfish? She whispered. Go ahead. Can I see you again next week? Not as a stranger, not as a mother even, just as someone who wants to know you. Jordan looked down, then nodded. Yeah, I think I'd like that. And somewhere inside that old house, the past loosened its grip, just a little. The birthday that didn't hurt 1 year later. The same rooftop, same table, different sky. This time there were candles, but no reservation. Just two people who no longer needed a reason to see each other. Madeline turned 41 today. She didn't dress up, didn't wear red lipstick. She wore a soft blue sweater Jordan had once said reminded him of sky just before rain. He arrived late on purpose, said she hated waiting but loved being surprised. He brought 2 coffees, no wine this year, just warmth. You look calm, he said, sitting down. I feel honest, she replied. They smiled, not out of politeness, but because grief had finally loosened its grip. She reached into her bag, pulled out a small box. Inside the bracelet, cleaned, restored, polished like new. It's yours again, she said. I think your father would have wanted that. Jordan took it, slipped it on. Didn't say anything for a while. Then, he would have liked this, he said. You and me, sitting like this, not trying too hard. Do you ever wish it happened differently? Sometimes, Jordan said, but if it had, I wouldn't be who I am, and you wouldn't be sitting here. A quiet fell over them again, but it was no longer heavy, just still. They didn't call each other mom or son. They didn't need to. What they shared didn't fit inside titles. It was made of time, silence, apologies, and something that felt like love, the kind that doesn't rush or demand. It just stays. As the sun dipped low, Jordan stood and pulled something from his coat. A letter. I wrote you something, he said. I'm not great with birthdays, but I'm getting better. Madeline opened it. Just one sentence, handwritten, underlined twice. You are no longer a stranger at my table. And that night, for the first time in decades, Madeline Rivers blew out her birthday candle and didn't make a wish. Because what she'd been wishing for had already arrived. And he was sitting right there. End.